So yeah, this is Nealuchi. He's a minor character from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and its sequel, Radiant Dawn. He is a unit in your army in Radiant Dawn. He doesn't get up to a whole lot. His main shtick is that he is old. And he dotes on Naesala and Leanne, but he's old. So old, in fact, that at the end of Radiant Dawn, where it tells you what everyone gets up to after the events of the game, Nealuchi, he gets even older. And you know what? I love that for him. But I do have a question. How old is he actually? And what all has he been through? What has he lived through? What has he witnessed in the history of Tellius? Well, in Tellius Recollection, we have ages for all the characters, kind of. What we have are their apparent ages, how old they appear to be, you know, what the designers had in mind when they were illustrating the characters. And Nealuchi is a Laguz, which means that he lives much longer than ordinary Bjork, aka humans, for those not in the know. But luckily, we also have a conversion chart of Bjork ages to Laguz ages. So while it may not be perfectly accurate, we could get an approximation of how old Nealuchi is. Nealuchi's apparent age is listed as 76, and Raven Laguz are 3.5 times as old as they appear to be. So Nealuchi is somewhere in the ballpark of 266 years old. Great. Radiant Dawn takes place in the year 648, so if we take this number at face value, it means that Nealuchi was born at approximately 382. Now, this number on its own may not carry any significance to someone who's just played the games, but Tellius Recollection also gives us a timeline of major events in Tellius. And something that happens right around the time of Nealuchi's birth in 385 is the establishment of the kingdom of Phoenicis. Phoenicis? Phoenicius. The Hawk Kingdom. Well, originally it was both the Hawk and the Raven Kingdom, and both of the tribes were living there for over 20 years before they formally established the kingdom, so Nealuchi was in all likelihood born there. He may have been born shortly after the establishment of the kingdom, but if he was around, he would have been very young. Now, something that I am very confident that Nealuchi was around for and actively participated in was the separation of the Raven tribe and the Hawk tribe. The Ravens left and formed their own kingdom, Kilvas, on another island. We don't get a lot of detail as to why this happened, other than that there were differences between the tribes. We don't know if Nealuchi wanted them to stay united at the time, or if he was in favor of separating, but he definitely did migrate with the Ravens to their new kingdom. So with this in mind, not only has Nealuchi been around for the entirety of the Kingdom of Kilvas, but he's also probably been around for the entire history of the Kingdom of Phoenicis, and that's pretty neat. Phoenicis? The narrator never says the name of the bird kingdom. I can't act in confidence. Phoenicus? Phoenicus? Phoenicus. Help me, IPA key. Phoenicus. Okay. Phoenicus. So Nealuchi was around for the entire history of both bird kingdoms. And he was also around for what happened shortly after the establishment of Kilvas, which was it got attacked by Benyon. Yeah, so Benyon tried to basically fight the rest of Tellius at one point. This is labeled on the timeline as Tellius's era of war, at least in this translation. And yeah, they were trying to reclaim their old territories that had broken away from them. And they started out with Dayan and Kilvas. And Kilvas folded after 3 years. And then they were occupied by Benyon for 50 years? 50 years. Nealuchi, presumably, unless he was somewhere else, doing other things, hanging out in Gallia, perhaps, I don't know. It stands to reason that he lived under whatever this Benyon occupation of their territory was for 50 whole years, and has never talked about it once in the games. That's actually just crazy. This man has been through a lot, and we just kind of dismiss him because, you know, he's like, oh, Naesala, don't do war crimes. Oh, Nealuchi, you old bird, I just have to do a war crime right now. I just can't help it. I want to do it, actually. I want to do a war crime. No! I somehow doubt the Benyon occupation of Kilvas, whatever that consisted of, was as harsh as their later occupation of Dayan after the Mad King's War. You know, because they were also fighting Crimea and Dayan at the time. But, you know, it definitely wasn't good. And it lasted for 50 years. Yeah, wow. Oh yeah, by the way, during the era of war, this is when the Kingdom of Serenus formed. They broke away from Benyon because they were like, you know, if the apostle is the voice of the goddess, I somehow doubt that the goddess is telling the apostle to fight everyone in the Holy Crusade. I hope our misgivings about the apostle aren't used against us someday. But yeah, that covers most of the remarkable events that we have knowledge of that Nealuchi would be around for. You know, yes, obviously he was around for the Serenus Massacre, but that only took place 20 years before the events of Path of Radiance. So yeah, that's Nealuchi's secret past, I suppose. Although, one last little tidbit. After Radiant Dawn, the bird tribes come together in Serenus Forests. They reunite with each other. Which means that a young Nealuchi lived through the Hawk tribe and the Raven tribe splitting apart from each other. And then as an old man, he got to see them reunite. And I think that's kind of nice. I'm happy he got to see that. I'm sure he has some old, but not as old, friend among the Hawk tribe who he got to, you know, spend the rest of his days with. Someone who he knew in his youth. They can't be older than Nealuchi. He is the oldest. He is canonically the oldest bird. He's not the oldest character in these games. There's dragons, there's goddesses. They're all truly ancient and very plot relevant. But spiritually, in his soul, Nealuchi is the oldest character in these games. He's just so old, and that's awesome. And now you hopefully understand just how old he is. I don't know. Like and subscribe. If you are a true Nealuchador, a true member of the Nealuchi Nation, like and subscribe. Leave a comment about your favorite Nealuchi moment. Okay, bye. Nesala, you need to hit the yoinky splonky. Nesala, what is a skippity? Nesala, I think you're having a bad influence on Leanne. She just said skibbity at me. What does that mean?